Hey guys, welcome back. Tisha here, back with another Sister Wives Season 15 review. Watching this entire discussion about the pandemic after all these years has created, I guess, a somber feeling in me while watching this. At the time that they aired this, it was a year after we were going through this horrible life-changing experience that a lot of us honestly are still feeling the effects of. So seeing them talk about state borders and big cities and what's happening with toilet paper, I'm finding myself being annoyed because it's so much deeper than that. So much has changed for so many of us. We've lost friends and colleagues and pillars in our family. We've put foreign things in our bodies with hopes that we don't get the virus, just to then get the virus. We've taken boosters despite knowing what permanent damage it may even cause. Our lungs aren't the same, our minds aren't the same, and our lives aren't the same. So seeing the Browns talk about this without putting all of that into context really put me in a funky mood. I get that they have to include it since it's what was happening when they were filming and what they were going through at that time. But do we seriously need a play-by-play of their experience when at that point, the thing that they seem to be most concerned about is their separation? A separation that they already had even before the virus came into being. Because since they moved to Flagstaff, this is what they've been complaining about, is not seeing each other, not spending time with each other. The adults have done nothing for over a year to rectify the situation. So don't sit here now and waste our time by acting like this virus has now caused you all to not see each other when the virus wasn't here and when you had ample opportunity to get together without filming, you were not doing it. You were not creating moments as a whole family to get together and allow your kids to spend time with each other. So now that you're sitting here and you're blaming the virus for this, I feel like the Browns are playing in my face. And it's making me mad. So I'm telling you all now that there are some things that I may leave out. If you want to discuss it, feel free to put it down below. But I started getting irritated with even taking the notes because some of the stuff that they were talking about, the whole toilet paper thing, and I guess they were trying to lighten up the episode, it just didn't rub me the right way. But it could just be me in my personal situation and the things that happen. I don't know. But let's get into the episode. We begin the episode with Cody telling us all about the pandemic, that it is now in the United States, that colleges and businesses are closing. We see the adults do a video call. I'm assuming it's Zoom, not quite sure based on the layout of it. They joke about their lack of knowledge when it comes to technology because Christine is sideways on the screen. Christine says after checking out the venues the previous week with Leon and Audrey, she then took Gwen, Isabel, and Truly to visit Maddie and her family. Now, at that time, they were aware of the virus. They were aware of what was going on. So she made a call to Maddie at first to make sure that it was still okay for them to visit. Maddie had no problem with it. So at the time of this conference call, Christine is still at Maddie's in North Carolina with them, and she is now concerned about what's going to happen when it's time for them to fly back home. Cody feels like there's a possibility of them being stuck because he's concerned about the airports closing. The biggest worry is he said the biggest concern is that this thing is traveling because people are traveling and people are getting on planes. Yeah, that was one way that it was happening, but it was happening in other ways as well. People were getting it from going to the grocery store and congregating and doing all the things as well. So you can't just label it on that one thing, but I get what he was saying. The bird instantly lets everyone know that she is quarantining herself and her kids. So supposedly Robin is quarantining herself, yet here she is at this conversation in this car taking a video call. I don't know if she's doing it because her home is loud or if she's trying to make it seem like her and Cody aren't presently at the same house because maybe it's not time for him to be there. He's supposed to be somewhere else, or if she's coming from somewhere. But either way, even though she's supposedly quarantining, she's in this car. According to Robin, they had to take precautions, and it's stressing her out so badly because she's had pneumonia before, and Saul also had RSV when he's younger. Legitimate concerns. I am not denying that by any means. I just like to add that Truly also had pre-existing conditions. Truly almost died. So she has underlying health conditions as well. But the bird presently, with the statement that she made, is only thinking about her family. Cody's not knocking her for that. Yet later on, when Mary is considering Leon and Audrey by going to Chicago, Cody wants to act like she's selfish for just thinking about her kids. You see the difference there. The bird says her family doctor says it's dangerous because with him having RSV when he's younger, it almost caused him to almost be admitted to the hospital. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we saw the episode where he had RSV. And if I remember correctly, at some point, I don't know if it was before or after he was diagnosed, Robin went on a date with Cody and took her sick child to the restaurant. She even told us that he was sick. Because I remember being annoyed by the fact that she had him in the restaurant. I was like, why couldn't you just stay at home with your kid? Or why couldn't you allow someone else to watch your kid rather than you bring your sick child into the restaurant to get other people and their kids sick? I remember. But it doesn't matter if she's doing something to other people. It only matters when other people are infecting or affecting her. RSV has weakened his lungs, and while Robin claims to be taking precautions, Janelle, on the other hand, is not being as cautious. Janelle says that it's like spring break at her home, that they've just been lounging around the house. She says that, you know, with the things that I see on the media, I'm not really sure if they're just trying to scare us because it's not matching up. What I'm seeing in the bigger cities is not happening in my community. And she's wondering if it's just a big city thing. I think, unfortunately, a lot of people had the same mentality as Janelle until it did in fact hit closer to home, until there were people in their city or their state being confirmed to have it. I remember at one point, my phone was lit up with confirmed cases. It was ridiculous at how many people were getting this thing because people were not following directions. They weren't listening. They weren't staying home as suggested. Like I had friends that were, you know, hanging out with each other and getting sick because they weren't staying where they were supposed to stay, while I was like hunkered down, I guess like how Robin claimed she was. Cody says, as long as we stay away from other people and our kids stay away from other people, we won't be exposed. Mary points out that they don't see each other every day, so they should be fine. Just keep their distance from town and others. I think that Mary lives an extremely lonely life, and COVID probably made it worse for her. But Mary is being very honest when she's saying they don't see each other every day, so it shouldn't be that big of a deal. Janelle says, if we're all really careful and we just go to the grocery store, then we should be all good with hanging out with each other. And Robin immediately is against it. She doesn't come straight out and say it, but you can tell she is based on what she says. She says, you guys think it's okay and it's safe to spend time with each other? And Janelle's like, yeah, it gives more time for us to hang out with each other and to be together. It's not like we have anything else going on. And she's like, you think that it's okay for us to be spending time with each other and stuff like that? That's what you think? She tells us, I'm nervous and cautious and I'm stressed out about it. Janelle says her boys at this point are already over it, that they want to hang out with their friends. So she's telling them to be cautious. Robin says she doesn't know the right answer and what it is. She just knows that they need to stick together as a family. Robin already said what her right answer is. I have to be honest. At the beginning of this situation, I was with Robin. I was the parent where every Friday, without fail, my house had a bunch of boys in it because they were coming over to play video games and to eat some good food. It was to the point where I tell my son on Thursday, find out what your friends want me to cook for tomorrow so I can make sure that I have enough food in here for them, because they're not going to keep coming over here and eating up the stuff that I want. You see what I'm saying? That's what it was. They'd eat, they have a good time. But the moment that the virus came, all of that stopped. And if I'm being completely honest, it hasn't resumed. I stayed in my little bubble because at first I did not want to be vaccinated. And there's no judgment for me on that, because I'm normally someone that I would get, certain vaccinations, but like the flu shot, I never got that vaccination until my job made it mandatory several years ago. The boosters and all this other stuff for the virus, I only got those shots because my job made it mandatory and I didn't feel like going through the hassle. Now, the good news is I've never had it, but I know people who got the shots and still got, the virus, and they got it multiple times. So the fact that you did or you didn't, no judgment here. And I don't want us to go back and forth in the comment section about it. My point is, I took certain precautions. I was the person who would go to New York every single month to go see my friends and family. And as a result of the pandemic, I hadn't been. The first time I went back to New York since the pandemic was last month. And unfortunately, it was for a funeral. That's how much I have avoided being in certain situations, because it still, if I'm being honest, gives me a little bit of anxiety. Some of you know this, some of you don't. When I was younger, I suffered with it badly. Up until my 20s and early 30s, it was still a problem. I was heavily medicated, all those things. Now, since then, I've been able to monitor it and work through it. But there are times where I do get extremely anxious, and you have to do what works best for you. So I'm not judging Robin saying that for her, she wants to quarantine, as long as she's actually doing what she's telling us that she's doing. As a family, because there's so many of them, it wouldn't have mattered what they decided to do, because there's a lack of trust there. There would have always been a problem. They don't work together on everyday issues on a normal basis. So why would they work together for something as serious as this? So it's another day, and people were supposed to come over to Christine's for breakfast, but no one is coming. Janelle feels sick, and the other moms just don't want to risk it. Cody says, it appears that the virus is going to change our lifestyle somewhat because our families are not going to get together. Did he forget that we've literally been watching them over the years, and we've understand that for an entire season that their family did not get together, that the adults admitted that it had been at least 4 months since they all were in the same room. And you're sitting here telling us that because of a virus, now you're not getting together. Stop blaming the situation on the pandemic. And he sticks by this thing, because even later on, when he acts like the family imploded, he said it was a Christine and because of this situation here. Mary lets us know that New York, Washington, and California have been hit hard, and that they're predicting that Chicago is going to be hit next. Fearing that it's going to be their next, Leon and Audrey are now ready to go. They were already going to be leaving Chicago anyways, so they feel like it makes sense that they move now before they're told that they can't leave, because there were talks of like blocking borders and having marshals and things of that nature come out to prevent them from going from state to state. So they wanted to go ahead and get ahead of that. Not a big deal, but there's a different sense of urgency now in the move. I have mixed feelings about this situation and how it was handled, because as a parent, I do feel like I may have wanted to get out there to help my kids. But at the same point, they did it before without Mary, so maybe they could do it again without her. It's not ideal, but sometimes you have to make certain sacrifices. But I would be concerned. So Mary's plan is to rescue Leon and Audrey by flying to Chicago and helping in any way that she can. But Cody is thinking of it differently. He comes over to change the plans. He feels like Mary is selfishly just thinking about herself, Leon, and Audrey, but he's required, his word required, to think about the entire family. When does he think about the entire family? I think that he only thinks about certain portions of the family. Cody says he can't risk himself by coming out there to help them move, because by making that trip, he would be risking each house that he visits. Whether you go on this trip or not, you going from house to house to house to house is already putting people in danger. Let's call it like it really is. He tells them that what they need to do is they need to pack up their stuff as soon as possible, get a rental, and just drive there by themselves. Mary is in full mom mode, feeling like she has to go there and help. But Cody is like, no, you're not getting on the plane. I want to know why all of a sudden he cares so much about whether or not Mary goes out there, when this is the same person who normally does not even come by to see Mary. So if Mary goes out there or not, why does he care? And I'm being serious. What difference does it make to him if Mary goes out there to help them? Cody quickly speaks about the situation with Mary sitting right there, not including her, saying that it's going to cost more money for us to come to you than for you to just start all over. He spoke over her without asking for her thoughts. Mary doesn't like that he's telling them all of these things without, consulting her, and she wants to kind of be included on this situation because she doesn't want them coming by themselves. Mary says, I know that they can do it without me, but I just want to be there for them. And that's fair. Mary is that parent that doesn't have, very much input or say so, and she does want to rescue her kid. So when she has the ability to be there in any capacity for Leon, she's going to overcompensate and make sure that she's there for Leon. Mary says that, overall, she hates to admit it, Cody was right. But for the next couple days, Mary did not relax until Audrey and Leon arrived at the home. It took them 3 days for them to drive from Chicago to Flagstaff. Mary was probably very relieved by the time that they got there, because she was by herself and because that's a long trip. Cody tells us as they arrive, and we see the dogs really, really excited to see Mary. It was really, really cute. And the kids happy to see Mary. Cody tells us that he's not there because they got a quarantine. How hard would it have been for Cody to drive over there, to drive the couple of miles, to lay eyes on his kid and his future kid, and wave at them to show them that he was there and he was supporting them? I look at Cody and I just feel like he's a sucky ass parent. And I may be reaching here. Maybe it's because of the type of dad that I have. But I remember that during the height of the pandemic, when things were going on, after my brother passed, that my father took it upon himself to get in the car, drive several hours just to lay eyes on me. Just to see me. He came out looking like some type of creature or some type of person from the CDC, but he just wanted to lay eyes on us to make sure that we are okay, because we're sitting here on the phone and we're having this heartfelt discussion, but it's not the same thing as laying eyes on the person. And he needed to feel my energy, and he needed to see me to make sure that his kid and his grandchild were okay. And literally, we met in the parking lot at a grocery store, and he wouldn't even embrace me. He just wanted to see me. And we talked outside, distance from each other, with masks and all this other stuff on, looking crazy. And then my father got back in his vehicle and drove many, many hours back home. So when I see Cody, who's supposed to be this great, extraordinary father, whose kid has just taken a 3-day trip to get home, not even have the decency to come by and just lay eyes on their child, I wonder what's wrong with you. Because let's say that Leon and Audrey did get sick. You mean to tell me that if they got sick, you wouldn't have seen them? You wouldn't have come by the house to check on them, and that your last memory of them would be a video call? It just seems insensitive to me. And maybe I'm taking it too personally for, because of things that have transpired. But I just listen to Cody and I feel like he really tries to act like he cares so much, but it's not about him caring. It's really just about himself and his ego. We see what I guess is supposed to be a lighthearted moment about toilet paper usage and the stores running out of toilet paper. And because Cody had to unclog the toilet at Christine's, he feels like they used too much toilet paper. So he's going to have a discussion. And I noticed that Aspen is there. So Aspen has come out of town to see her mom. He's going to have a discussion about it to show them how much toilet paper they should be using when they use the bathroom. I find it really odd for a man to tell a woman anything about how much toilet paper she should utilize when she's wiping an appendage that he doesn't have to wipe. We are not the same. And different people require different things. And yes, there's a shortage, but at that point, it hadn't gotten to the point where you had to use the Grandma Bill method, Mary's father, by using a square. And if you happen to get something on your hands, then you just wash it off. It's gross. And it grossed out the kids and the wives too. We later see Janelle call Cody, and she tells him that she does not want him to come around her home right now, that she has kids who are outside of the home and who are working outside of the home. She has a teenager who also is visiting his friends, and she doesn't want Cody to take a risk by coming to her house because right now her house is presenting as a risk. Janelle wants him to stay away for the next few weeks. Cody doesn't understand why she's telling him not to come over, and it's very simple. She's saying don't come over because God forbid if one of those kids get the virus and they give it to Cody and he gets sick and then he gets somebody else sick, he would never forgive them. And he would never let them forget it. He talks more about Gabe and them having the virus than he does about himself having it because he doesn't want to admit that Brianna got it and brought it home to all of them. Because when the nanny had it and they went and got tested, none of them were sick. But when Brianna had it, all of them got tested and everybody was sick with the exception of Aurora. And he talked about how hard it was for him not seeing Aurora for those couple of days because he couldn't be near her. Meanwhile, he hadn't seen kids for weeks and months at a time, and it didn't seem to faze him. Yeah, I haven't forgotten. Cody says that Garrison and Gabe are doing more than just working and going to school. They're having a social life because they are at the age group that feels like they're okay. I will admit, rest in peace, Garrison. But I did not like what you all later had to say about this stuff. You were taking risks. He says the entire family has been on the same page, that Janelle is broken up about the situation. You can see it. I can see it. She's even crying. She says, I feel powerless in this situation, and this is just one way I can protect. And Cody says this conversation needs to involve the other wives. I don't see why it needed to involve the other wives because she's telling you what she did for her household or what she wants to do, but you're trying to make it appear as if you're a united front. Because Cody, when he was talking about having to go to 3, he tried to fix it by saying 4, but it's only 3 houses. So they have another conference call where they have the videos on but they also have their speaker phones at their mouths. It's a mess at first because everyone is talking over everyone. Cody says, we're going to start with one person and then we're going to pass it off to the next. Let somebody finish the sentence before you interrupt. And Janelle's like, he's one to talk because he always interrupts, which he does. The wives begin talking about Cody's schedule, and he's not liking it because Christine suggests that he stays at a house for a couple of days before moving on to the next house, where he'll stay for another few days. I think that Christine was just trying to make a good suggestion. And when you think about it, Cody could have easily been spreading that thing to everyone because you don't know sometimes that you have it. There were people at work when we were getting tested at work who were coming to work feeling like they were fine, having absolutely no symptoms. Meanwhile, they had it. So you just don't know. And him sitting there acting like going from place to place every day makes a difference. I don't know if I could say that. I remember at one point, after they made us go back to work, because at one point I was working every other week. Then one point I was working 1 week on, 1 week off, 1 week in the office, 1 week home. Then at another point, it was the whole month I was home. Like they were trying all these different things to have us work because I work for healthcare. So they're always open. So if they're open, even though I'm dealing with numbers, apparently we got to be open too. Point is that with that being said, I was coming home because I was in a building with other people that I didn't know what they had going on. Yes, I had my mask on. Yes, I had my door closed. But guess what? There's ventilation and we're all breathing in the same air. So you are still at risk. I was coming home and I literally was not interacting too much with my son, because I don't know what I was exposed to while I was at work. These are the precautions I was taking. And here you have this man, he's going from house to house to house, being around all these people. So he could have been a petri dish for all we know. So they're talking about his schedule. And Cody is getting annoyed, and he says that he feels like they're treating him like a rag doll, while Christine is just trying to make a suggestion. And he's very irritated by her suggestion because he doesn't like being objectified. He didn't like them discussing his schedule because he felt like he was being passed around. And he shut that conversation down, and he did it quickly. The bird says, it's just such a kind of crazy shock to think of Cody not going to Janelle's house. You know, it's like, this is not what you do. You know, it's like your family. We're family. She says, if we lived in one house during all this, I think it would be easier because we would all have to come to an agreement. They wouldn't come to an agreement though. If you can't agree, let's put this thing into perspective here. And I just thought about this. If you can't agree, I can't even speak. You know, sometimes I listen to myself a little bit on the replay, and I don't understand how you all tolerate me because I don't complete words. I miss words. I don't know what I'm reading off my page, y'all. That's not a booger. I'm trying to fix my nose ring, but it's not cooperating with me. Anyways, I don't know how you all tolerate me because I say a little bit of everything. But with that being said, they could not agree. I'm saying but you're not hearing it. Agree. They could not do that when it came to Coyote Pass. You could not agree on who was going to get what. And you had well over a year to pick which part of these 4 zones you're going to be in. So what makes us think, what makes Robin think, what makes any of them think that they're going to agree on what the rules should be when it would come to this situation? It makes no sense. Where was I at? If we lived in one house during all this, I think it would be easier because we would have to come to an agreement. Robin then makes sure that she sounds like she's really concerned and says, you know, Janelle, I'm sorry. I get what you're saying. I'm just worried about your kids and you and Cody and everything. Yeah. The same person who didn't think it was a good idea for them to get together, the same person who didn't feel safe with the boys during the holidays, the same person who, when Mary said, should I have them over for Christmas Eve, you said you didn't think it was safe because you didn't know what was going to happen. But you're supposed to make us believe that you feel bad that she's making this decision. If the bird felt bad about anything, it was that she was going to be stuck having to see Cody on more days than she originally planned. Because as we can see in the limited time that we see Cody, he's extremely draining. Very, very draining. She says, this challenges our priorities and what's important to us. How do we deal with this the right way? Cody says, if I'm sacrificing, then you guys got to sacrifice too. You don't go to town and your kids don't go to town. Janelle's like, look, I love the idea of that, but I got to get outside or I'm going to go bonkers, which lets Cody know that he's not going to be able to trust Janelle because Janelle is going to be around other people. Janelle says, Cody wants us to stay put, but I can't just stay in the house. At this point, going grocery shopping is, a relief for me. Even they sanitize the carts and they do this and they do that and I'm socially distanced, but that's a relief for me. Janelle has now pissed off Cody, and Cody's like, Janelle is going to sacrifice her time with me, but she's not going to sacrifice her kids from that time with me. This is where he basically feels like she's picking other things and other people over him. As Cody continues to talk, you see Mary, and Mary doesn't even look like she's really paying attention because although they have Mary on this phone, this call, on this discussion, it really doesn't pertain to her because Cody doesn't come and visit her. Now, maybe he would see her because Audrey and Leon are supposed to be there. But if I recall, don't Audrey and Leon go and help at the bread and breakfast? The bed and breakfast, the B&B? Isn't that what they end up doing? So it's not like she's included in this. And you could tell she's disconnected because she doesn't see Cody anyway. So she is in love with the dog. The dog is showing more love to her than he does or that family does. My opinion. Janelle says, Cody always says, choose the choice that will allow you to choose again. And I feel like that applies here. And she's good with her decision, but Cody still wants to talk about it. It's nothing more to talk about. She said, don't come over to her house to see her. You can stand outside if you want to, but you can't come inside. So just don't come. Robin says she feels like what's best for the group is important, and it's freaking heartbreaking that this is where they're at. You've never done what's best for the group. What's best for the group would have been for you to actually downsize and not buy that huge behind home. What's best for the group would have been for you to encourage the child's father, your child's father, to spend time with his other kids or to make sure that he's there for the extensive surgery that his daughter was having on her spine and support her and be there for her rather than just worrying about his two little ones. That is what would have been best for the group. I got a question because that's where it basically ends. Do you think that the one house would have actually solved their problem with quarantine? Tell me down below. I'm interested in hearing your opinions. To me, I feel like the one house would have made it significantly worse. Sorry this was so short and I came into this in a little bit of a mood. I didn't mean to bring it down, but the reality of the situation is that a lot of us have been through a lot as a result of this. And hearing them talk about it the way that they are in this present moment, not realizing how serious this is and how life-changing this situation was at that time, bothered me. Hope you guys understand. As I said earlier, if there's something that I left out that you wish to discuss, please feel free to put it down below. Like the video, it helps the channel. Until next time.